Today, we are going to make some grass. No, I'm not in Colorado, so it's not going to be that kind of grass. It's our techniques that are so simple and sensible, your models will practically build themselves. Hello folks, it's Mad Dog Merv. Welcome to my madness. Today we are going to be doing simulating a wood deck on a sailing ship, like a pirate ship or the Constitution or something like that. There are wooden decks available out there. They're very expensive, and boy, it sure would be nice to do that. But when you buy these kits, they're already expensive. The pirate ship that we're going to be doing some demonstration on is about $180 kit. So I don't want to add to that, okay, financially. I'm not going to do that. Some of you guys might do it. Go ahead, great, it's your model, enjoy it. But what I want to do is kind of a cheap and easy way to make these wooden decks look presentable, you know, look like wood without a whole lot of work. We're going to do a couple of different things. We're going to use a wood color by Testers today. Okay, a lot of guys don't have access to these anymore, but I have so many in my stash that well, I still use a lot of enamels. They are my preferred paint. Yes, I've used a lot of acrylics. I still prefer enamels if I can get away with it. And you can see the base color is you know, not bad, but we're going to enhance that with some filters and washes that are very easily available, or you could even make. And we're going to show you that. We're going to show you some Mission Models acrylic. We're going to show you some Tamiya acrylic, because I know that most of you guys use acrylics, and so we might as well show you the different, the same technique on these different paints and how they react and how the final reveal looks on it. So without further ado, because this is going to be just a little bit longer of a video because it takes a few minutes to do all of this, but it's quick, it's easy, and in my opinion, it makes these decks look great. So stick with Mad Dog Merv as we do a tutorial today on how to simulate a wood deck on a sailing ship. The paint that I used on the deck, and I usually like to use enamels if I can. This is an old Testers Model Master wood, and I really like the look of this color. So you could use an acrylic. Maybe someday I'll do a demo on that. Who knows? But as long as I can get away with using enamels, that's what I'm going to do. So I painted this quite some time ago, and it's dry cured. It's great. The wash that I'm going to use is one that I bought from a friend of mine who makes this for a local hobby store, and it's a weathering wash mud brown. Pretty much it's water, a little bit of dish soap, and just a nice acrylic brown paint. And so it makes a nice little wash. Kind of, you know, show you there what the color looks like. Now I'm going to go ahead and put it on here, and some interesting things are going to happen. Oh, look, it's not going into the panel lines. It's not, it's beading up. Oh my goodness. Probably because this is water based, and what I've got here is an enamel. But don't worry, it does take a little bit of work to do this right, and that's why we're having the tutorial video. Now I'm going to put a liberal amount on here, and I'm going to continue to work it on here. So as it dries, I don't have a fan going on right now. It's about 77, 78 degrees out here in the doghouse. so it's not overly warm. And I'm just going to continue to brush it over. Now I'm going to give this about 2 minutes to dry a little bit, and we'll come back. So 2 minutes. Okay, so in this segment, let's move the camera back just a little bit. In this segment, we are going to do the same thing with acrylic. So this one is Mission Models, and all it is, I mixed some NATO brown with a radome tan that I can't seem to find where I've put it. Oh, it's right here. With radome tan to get this color that I wanted. Now, trying to get that original wood color from Testors is about impossible. Flowcool made a great color as well that I happen to have here. A little bit left. You know, these were really good colors back in the day, and it's what I like to use. But since they aren't available anymore, we're going to go ahead and use something that is. So I went ahead and airbrushed this Mission Models, and I gave just a little bit of color modulation. I hit some areas a little bit thicker than others for good reason. And then this one here, this is Tamiya, and this is some dark yellow with a little bit of hull red. Where's my hull red? With some hull red that I mixed to the ratio that I thought would look okay. And there you've got the two colors, pretty decent deck colors in my opinion. So that's what we're going to start with here. Now, both of them have had, remember that Mission Models has this additive that it's like a polyurethane additive that helps to strengthen the paint. It does give it a slight sheen, but I actually use that with my Tamiya as well when I'm going to be doing weathering, things like that. And this was thinned with Tamiya thinner, and this was thinned with Mission Models thinner when I shot it. So there you go. They're cured. I don't know that they were ever sick, but they are now cured. And we're gonna do the same thing here. Notice it doesn't quite beat up as much because it's, you know, not on an oil-based paint, but it'll still beat up a little bit. And again, you can either make your own wash, you can buy one of the commercially available washes. I would start out with the one that's brown. And I usually make my own washes because they're easy enough to do. But if you still want to support the hobby industry in a way of buying their washes, great. And you see I'm going to brush this on pretty liberally. And we're going to let it sit for a couple of minutes. Again, it's about 70 degrees outside here. I don't have a fan going. Of course, that might help dry things a bit, but not unless I need to. So yeah, this doesn't beat up as much, so I don't have to work it quite as much, but I still want to make sure that I get my lines fairly straight so I get some good, how can I put it, wood looking. This is from the Revell Black Swan kit, pirate ship is where I got this deck. I have a couple of these, so we're going to use this one for a demo. If I get it on a little bit thick in an area, and just go back and wipe it up. Now you can see this is the Tamiya, It's beating up just a little bit more than it was on the other one. And just again to review real quick, these washes are basically just water and some kind of a dish detergent. When I mix mine, I usually will use Dawn or Palmolive. Those are the ones that I prefer. Palmolive is kind of that green Palmolive is kind of my go-to. And if you want to know how the mixture is, go to my video. I'll try to put a link in the description here on Larry's bath water, or using a pin wash. But I do use a lot of wash in my modeling. Yes, you could go through and single out individual boards and paint them different colors, you know, blah blah blah. Great, if you got the time and you want to do it, more power to you. That's not me. I don't have that kind of attention span. So this is kind of a quick, easy way to make a deck look, you know, fairly good. Okay, so there we go. Both of them now have one coat of my brown wash. We're going to let this dry, and we're going to come back in just a minute. Okay. I'm going to work this in some more. And this may be the last. This may be the last one. We'll see. And I make sure that I'm going with the grain, otherwise it does not look right. Any streaks in here are going to be helpful in the look of the wood grain. And we want to try and get as much of this as we can down into any cracks and crevices that are there. Oh yeah, we're just about there. You see how this one's coming out. I'm going to quickly do this one. Let's lay it over here so you can see what I'm doing. You can see that I'm making long strokes. And as it dries, we're getting those subtle tonal variations that I'm after. Yes, you can buy one of those nice wood decks and they are beautiful. They are engraved like they're supposed to be. You know, they are beautiful, and I would recommend one if you're really wanting a nice showpiece. They're expensive. Okay, they're like 3/4 the cost of this kit, and yes, they look good, but I'll tell you what, I'm not that good of a ship builder, so the other things that I build on this ship are not going to do justice to a beautiful deck like that. It'll have a beautiful deck, yeah, but but nothing else will look as good. You know, it won't be that museum quality type thing. So again, this is a nice, sufficient way to make it look good without breaking the bank. And you can see as it's drying, it's kind of sludging up here. Ooh, bug zapper got somebody. Okay, I'm going to put this aside for a minute. Oh yeah, this is drying nicely. This is it. This is the end right here. Yeah, you can see where it's drying. And okay, we're going to come back here in just a minute when this is perfectly dry and move on to our next step. Yes, there is another step. Okay, so we've put the brown wash away. I just want to show you now the difference between these two pieces. Okay, here's one that's untreated, and here's one that's treated with the brown. You can see that it's definitely given us a tone, and it's definitely lost its shine. That's good. Little spot here that's not quite perfectly dry, but we'll proceed anyway. So I have this video from my early days, so about 4 years ago, and this is my sludge wash that I call Larry's bathwater. So if you don't know about Larry's bathwater, please check out the I'll try and put a link up here. Please check out my video from a few years back called Making a Sludge Wash or a Panel Line Wash, and I think it might even be called Using Larry's Bathwater, something like that. Anyway, this is just water, some dish soap, which I think, yeah, I have this little bottle of Palmolive here, so that's what I like to use over Dawn and some of the others. So usually I'll use that bluish green Palmolive. It's just seems to work best for me. And I happen to have the color I really like here. This is Polyscale, I believe. So it's a really old paint. Comes in one of these bottles, you know. And it's a grimy black. So it's not perfectly black. It's just kind of a yucky color, which is, for me, the perfect panel line wash. You can use other paints. I've used Mission Models black before. I have not used Tamiya. I've tried, and it just doesn't work well for me. So stay away from that. But things like Mission Models, some of these others that you might try, I think like the AK, you know, these kind aren't too bad. The model color, I've used those as well to make this panel line wash. But this is the real McCoy. This is the one I really like, because I found my bottle of Polyscale. It's here somewhere. But it was, there was still some viability to it. So I was really happy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to apply this dark gray wash. Not as heavy, but you can see it doesn't beat up as much as the other one, obviously, because there's something for it to bite to. Now, you're going to ask me, doesn't this mix with the brown? Yes, it's going to pull up some of the brown, but I'm not going to work it nearly as much as I would, or as I did the first color. I'm just going to try and put a nice coat on like that. I'm going to let that sit for a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and do this other piece off camera. We'll be right back. Okay, so I finally turned the fan on so we could dry just a little bit quicker, but now you'll see the results of that first wash, and I like it, definitely. I probably should have left one of these unwashed so you could compare, but I wasn't thinking. And here's the Tamiya. That's the brown. Okay, so now comes the one that to me is a real difference maker, and it's my kind of a grimy gray sludge wash that I make, called Larry's Bathwater. I will leave one undone here, that way can see the difference between this second wash. I'm not scrubbing it in or anything like that because it is soap and water, and it's going to remove the wash below it and mix in if I'm not careful. So it's not my goal here. My goal is to try and get this into as many cracks and crevices and whatnot as possible. So in this instance, it's used more as a filter than it is a wash. And again, I will explain that in the video on Larry's bath water, or using a pin wash, that depending on how you use it, it can be a wash or it can be a filter. And in this case, it's more of a filter. Okay, we'll let this dry. You can kind of see the difference so far, but we're going to let that dry while we go ahead and do the Tamiya. Great wood grain detail on this deck, by the way. The Revell kit wasn't bad either, but the Revell Constitution kit, it's not bad either. But this one definitely is better. You can see how it's running down into these panel lines here, which is what I want. I want it thick enough to do that, but yet I don't want to wind up with too much wash on there. So you get too much, it starts doing this, and it will actually puddle up and dry like that. And it's easy enough to get off, but then it does change the way it looks. You have to kind of go back and reapply it. So let's try and do it right the first time. Again, I don't want to work it a whole lot, just a little bit. So that I try and get it not too thick. It's the bubbles are telling me that I've got a little bit too much in a certain area. So, okay. There we are with that. Now we're going to let that dry. We're going to come back in a few minutes and take a look. Alright, let's take a look at the finished product here. So here is the Tamiya. And you can see a little bit of runs here that I'm going to just touch with the brush and get rid of those. But you can see the difference in that first. It's just kind of a light streaky brown, which helps with the tonal variation of the boards, versus now. And if I want to remove some of this, it's very easy with just a little bit of alcohol and a cotton swab or paper towel, whatever, or however I want to do it. I mean, you can see just rubbing it with my finger is removing just a tiny bit and enhancing those lower areas where it's sunk in a little bit further. So now I could go over and dry brush this, which I may do, but for the purpose of this video, I'm not doing any of the dry brushing. But you can see with the Tamiya how that turned out. Here we are with the Mission models, and you can see how it turned out. Here's without the black or sludge wash, and here's with it. Just this little bit that I'm doing right here helps to highlight the high areas. I can't hold things this morning for some reason. And there you go. So, you know, hopefully this is a technique that you like. When we compare it to, I'll show you this base that I made using the tester's wood and using this exact same technique on here with a few more coats of brown, how that turned out. So again, without a whole lot of work, you can turn out a pretty decent looking wooden deck. I just have too much stuff here on my desk. Okay, I went ahead and did another piece while I just gave this, what, a minute and a half, and it's bitten into the brown, that's for sure. And I don't want to work it a whole lot. Okay, I'm not going to work this very much at all. I just want to make sure that I get the brush strokes the way I want them, and I don't have any unwanted streaks or puddles. I've kicked on my fan so that I can get this to dry just a little bit quicker. And voila, here's my deck piece. You can see it's dry. And yeah, it doesn't have the board tones. I could go through and pick out a few boards and do a little variation. I could. But like I said, for me, this is going to be okay because of the way the rest of the ship's going to look. So there's with just the brown, and here we are with the black sludge wash as well. And here's our original. Okay, now here's the testers, and you can see I got some areas a little bit thick, so I'm just going to use my thumb actually to wipe those thicker areas down. And there we go. So this is the tester's wood, and the mission models, and the Tamiya. So there's the three different types. Like I said, I could go ahead and give this a dry brush, and it would really cause this area to pop. And I may go back and do that, but for the intent of this video, here's what we've got. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.